Have you been seeing all these highly detailed articulated Transformers about the place that remind you of your childhood? Have you thought, you know what, I may be pushing this age or that age, but I'd like to start collecting again. To heck with what my friends or family or the wider world might think. Then congratulations, you've come to the right place. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about collecting Transformers these days, and I'm hoping that by the end, you'll have a much clearer idea of where you want to focus. Let's begin at the beginning, shall we? In the beginning, there was one line of Transformers released by Hasbro, but that has not been the case for quite some time. These days, there are third-party makers of highly articulated Transformers that fans might choose over Hasbro's first-party and officially licensed offerings. I'm going to look at those before we get to Hasbro, but fair warning, it's going to get a little confusing, but hang in there. I promise that by the end, things will be a lot clearer. So let's talk about the first of those lines that's not necessarily Hasbro, but it's very closely affiliated with Hasbro. This is the range of Masterpiece figures by Takara Tomy, Hasbro's Japanese partners. This line has had a massive influence on modern Transformers designs. It's an incredibly accurate, highly detailed range, considered by many to be the best thing to collect if you're looking for articulation and accurate representations of the characters. They're big and look impressive on display, but the big downside is that they are very expensive. A single Decepticon Seeker can easily set you back £200 here in the UK, and if you don't grab them quickly when they first come out, they're hard to track down. Next to the third-party makers of Transformers, these aren't knockoffs though. They're high-quality figures that many consider better than the Masterpiece in some ways. How do they get away with creating versions of these licensed characters? Well, it's a bit of a grey area, but technically they're not those characters, they're inspired by them. So, a company's version of Sideswipe might be called Crimson Overcharge, for instance, or Starscream might be Sky Blizzard. So they're not those characters, they just kind of look a lot like them.
He kind of looks like Menasor from Transformers Generation 1, but that's probably just a coincidence.
Some of the most popular third-party sellers are Fans Toys, Iron Factory, X-Transbots, and Magic Square. The list goes on and on. Every range has its own quirks, but if you're looking for premium figures, then the odds are there is a company where the designs really speak to you. Beyond this, the main seller of Transformers is, of course, Hasbro. They sourced these lines of transforming toys from Japanese companies in the 80s, branded them Transformers, and they have been releasing versions of beloved characters and creating new ones ever since then. It's one of those toy lines that's stood the test of time, never really going away. It's constantly reinventing itself and has been on the toy shelves pretty much consistently since the 1980s. Today, Hasbro's focus is on catering to the many different groups of fans that have grown up with them. And because of this, it can get a little muddled when it comes to Hasbro's many lines and sublines. You might want all the figures that Hasbro releases to be from your favourite version of Transformers, but they can't do that anymore because they're tasked with satisfying everyone in the fandom. Anyway, it's the task of this video to try and break it down a little for you. Outside the lines tied to new media and geared for kids, such as Earthspark toys or budget-friendly versions of characters from the most recent Transformers 1 movie, Hasbro has had a main collector-focused line called Generations for over a decade now. This is important to differentiate because when new media emerges, it will generally have offerings for kids that are distinct, while the Generations line for collectors continues to tick along in one form or another in the background. Although you won't see the Generations branding very much, what you'll see is the name of the current subline underneath the largely invisible Generations umbrella. Are you confused yet? Well, buckle in, things are going to get a little bit more confusing before they get any clearer. To keep things fresh, a new theme is introduced every few years. When collectors refer to the main line, this is generally what they're talking about. Currently, the main Generation subline is called Age of the Primes, and as the name suggests, it will eventually see the release of all 13 primes.
Mythological beings with unique abilities. Every Transformers bot can be traced back to one of the original 13.
It's this line in which figures from multiple Transformers series will get a release. There can be G1 characters in this line, Beast Wars, Rescue Bots, Armada, really any continuity goes. It's therefore eclectic, but it's the line where your favourite characters might one day get a release, so it's worth watching. The big one really, although other sublines are starting to rival it for scale and scope. The Studio Series, for instance. This is another subline under the Generations moniker, focused upon the live-action movies. Or it was when it first started. It's gone on to include characters from animated features like Transformers 1, the 80s movie, as well as computer games like Transformers Devastation and War for Cybertron. The line between these various lines is becoming blurred, to say the least. You may even be wondering why it's important to know the difference. I feel the same sometimes, and to be honest, I couldn't care less what line a figure comes out in, as long as the figure itself is cool and accurate to the character. But go to the Hasbro Pulse website or any specialist site with Transformers and you'll see everything broken down into these sublines. And this video would be doing a pretty poor job of trying to explain to you if I didn't go into the weeds with this stuff. Let's pick on Pulse because they can take it and they deserve it. You as a new collector want to buy some Transformers. Now you know what Age of the Primes is. Hopefully you're a little clearer on that. You also know that if you're interested in the movies or games, Studio Series will likely have some figures there. But what's this now, the Legacy line? Again, it's simple once you're in the know. This is the line before Age of the Primes, the previous main line. So all the same types of characters that are coming out in Age of the Primes were coming out in the Legacy until the theme changed and the line was refreshed. And since the figures in the previous line don't automatically get ported to Age of the Primes, they remain Legacy, they are still there for your perusal and will be until they sell out. Are we having fun yet? Or are you starting to regret clicking on this video and the idea of collecting Transformers in the first place? I hope not. As someone once said, nothing worth having was ever easy to understand.
What? Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker.
4, 3, 2, 1, blast off!
Actually, I don't think anyone has ever said that until this point, but it seems appropriate. There's no easy way to clue in a new collector to this stuff. It's daunting, and I was confused for a long time. We're just going to have to tick off the question marks you might have as we go. Click on the drop-down menu on Pulse, for instance, and you'll see for the first time that Generations designation. Click on this and you'll see a range of characters from the Legacy, Studio Series, Age of the Primes, and some without a specific subline to call their own. This is why it's worth remembering that Generations is the banner, is the umbrella, even though it might not be obvious at times. Skipping over the Studio Series here, which we've already covered, we get to Robeson. This is one of those officially licensed producers of premium figures, ones that actually transform themselves. They're even more expensive than the Masterpiece, but undeniably cool, and their popularity suggests there's a lot of collectors out there willing to invest in such big ticket items, and maybe you'll be one of them. Then Takara Tomy, not really a line per se, but Hasbro do re-release a selection of their Japanese counterparts offerings in the West, from Masterpiece to The Missing Link. This is a reimagining of versions of G1 toys with modern articulation, and the Dramatic Capture series. These are multi-packs of previously released characters with slight deco changes sometimes, but they're often a boon for collectors who missed out on the initial release. 3-0 is another licensed manufacturer creating intricate reinterpretations of characters for the high-end collector market. They don't transform at all, but if striking visuals are your focus, then maybe 3-0 could be for you. So let's recap when it comes to Hasbro. There's a collector-focused line called Generations, under which there are sublines such as Age of the Primes and Studio Series, with their own particular focus. And when it comes to collecting, it's also handy to know what the previous lines were called, such as Legacy, since many of those figures will still be available, either through Hasbro or on other specialist retailers, where they'll still have their own categories to sort through. It's certainly worth mentioning that while all this is going on, there are those kid-focused toy lines. They aren't generally listed on sites like Pulse or your favourite collector sites, but they're nevertheless a perfectly acceptable focus if that's your kind of thing. Go to the Entertainer or Smiths in the UK, I'm guessing Walmart and Target in the US. You can't miss them, and because the target demographic for these is children, they're much more affordable than the collector lines, although as a collector you might have to wrestle with the idea you're depriving kids of their birthday presents if you decide to collect these. Arguably, it's these kid lines that are closest to the original in many ways. When I first bought Transformers, there were no collectors. There was just this colossal assortment of figures to choose from, sitting on shelves and pegs. And even when we got to Beast Wars or Armada, there was no need to cater to 40 years worth of fans. Things are confusing now, but it's hard to see how they could be anything else. Hasbro can't ditch the stuff you're not interested in for the sake of simplicity. They've got to account for multiple decades of eager Transformers fans. And although I and others get frustrated with the company at times, I do think they are trying their best. At least one thing we're not wanting for is choice these days. But this can be both a blessing and a curse. With all these options available, there's no way you can collect everything, so the question is focus. I made the mistake early on of not taking my time. I bought things that I later realised weren't quite for me. I think I was scared of missing out. But none of this stuff is going away. It hasn't for the last 40 years. So there's no rush. You can take your time and do your research and figure out what you want to focus on before you even start. Visit sites like the Transformers Wiki, which are incredible resources for this type of thing, or follow influencers like RodimusPrimal or JaAm, who do an amazing job of keeping us up to date with the latest releases, rumours, and changes to the various lines that might be coming down the pipe. I hope this video has helped you anyway. If it has, then give it a like. I do all kinds of Transformers videos. I'm mainly focused on G1 collecting, but anyone is welcome on the channel, so you're welcome to subscribe. I hope you will. I've been Napyet, and I'll see you next time.